Please welcome Sarah Sikich.
Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here today at Rising Tide Summit. Thanks for the intro, Vipe, and Alta-C, and everyone here for being part of this conversation. I live up in Topanga Canyon, so I was driving down today and got to drive along the PCH, and thankfully there were no waves, and just sort of reflected on why I do what I do. I'm actually a Midwesterner. I came from Minnesota and grew up there, but I think I fell in love with the ocean, and I was thinking about it particularly today because of my father. We grew up as a family sailing, and he was, philanthropic, so he was part of NRDC, a member there, a member of Cousteau Society, and we get those mailers. And I remember paging through those when I was a little kid and seeing the beautiful pictures of underwater and thinking, man, that's what I want to do for life. So I feel very fortunate that I'm working in that arena. I have to mention, though, that I took a turn when I moved out to California because I started my career out here at Catalina Island Marine Institute teaching, and I thought I was going to become like a scientist, researcher, underwater all the time. And it was in those moments teaching that I realized my calling was really to work towards activism and stewardship, and I think it was right away that happened. My first class was a high school group from Compton High, and many of those kids had never been to the ocean, or if they had been to the ocean, they hadn't been out past the surf zone, and I had to take these kids snorkeling, and I'm petite. Many of the high school boys were much larger than me, so I'm outfitting them in their double XL wetsuits and have a boogie board to help them float once they're out past their head-deep water. And one of the boys was so excited. He barely put his face in the water. He had his mask on, and he saw a Garibaldi. Of course, you see tons because they're bright orange. And he was just squealing with excitement. He went from tough kid who lives in Compton just to his ultimate raw, excited self to see the ocean. And there I realized that it's really the connections that make the difference, and it's going to really help our oceans thrive in the long run, which is why I'm so excited about Alta-C. I think the urban ocean is really important. We're not going to be able to protect our ocean in the long run if we don't get communities engaged and thinking about their connections right now and really becoming stewards. So hopefully it will become the institute the vision has and really engage that stewardship. Coming on the heels of Marcus's presentation, we've already heard a lot about the threats to our ocean. One of the big ones we work on is plastic pollution. And the numbers are just becoming more and more staggering, and it's becoming more and more evident that everyone in their everyday practices, whether they're individuals, businesses, or others, have to make a difference in trying to shift our behaviors. So I feel very fortunate to be on the couch here today with two business leaders that are leading the charge on plastics, on sustainability, regarding seafood and other green ocean-friendly practices. So I don't want to talk about Heal the Bay right now. I'd rather have a conversation with these two gentlemen talking about their business practices, because it's not a voice we get to hear from very often. So I'm going to introduce these two and get into some questions that I've prepared for our conversation, but I also want you all to be thinking about questions you may have so that we just have a really nice and intimate dialogue about some restaurant practices. So I've got first Greg Marina. He's the co-owner of the Albright and Pappy's here in San Pedro. He and his wife have been trailblazers in restaurant greening and social responsibility efforts, including the Albright's recognition as the first sustainable business on Santa Monica Pier, and he's really leading the way to bring others along with him. And then second is Mark Turner, co-owner of Bear Burger in Santa Monica. Bear Burger has restaurants across the nation, and in visiting their website last night, I was intrigued to hear that it enjoys accolades, including Anderson Cooper's favorite veggie burger. So, the first question I have for you is sort of a softball, but I think we all want to know, what made you think proactively about wanting to really put sustainability and ocean friendliness at the forefront of your business practices?
Do you want to start?
Sure, I'll start. Very loudly. My wife and I took over the Albright, actually. It was my wife's family business, our family business, that started in 1977. So we were 40 years old last year. And we are both from Santa Monica. My wife and I, we actually grew up next door to each other. And we have been involved with Santa Monica sustainability stuff since I can remember. I was in junior high when they put the blue trash cans next to the black ones. And it was a big surprise. No one knew what to do. It was a game, right, to throw which trash into which bin. So I would say that, part of our city, part of our our understanding of sustainability began, many, many years ago in junior high, and it was because of the initiative that Santa Monica had created in sustainability. I think then in just all of our years, my wife and I both got into the fashion business and were in that for many, many years. And then finally when we took over the family restaurant, it was just part of what you do, right? Being in Santa Monica, there's a great support system in Santa Monica called the Sustainable Quality Awards and then Sustainable Green Practices. So we were able to partner with the city of Santa Monica and progress in our own business towards sustainability. It was all the things that we had grown up with, allowed us to take them into practice, into our business. And then, of course, the race to be the first green business on the pier was obviously something that we wanted really badly. And so then we've taken that, and now we're trying to make the entire pier green. Apparently Santa Cruz did this some time ago, which upsets me greatly that Santa Monica was not first. So now we're trying to be a close second.
For me, I grew up in the city of Pittsburgh, where in like a low-income neighborhood, and one of my mother's biggest goals was to help build and cultivate a community that was both eco-friendly and like intrinsic to each other to make awesome things happen, if that makes sense. And so I remember walking down the street with her, and somebody had dropped garbage, and my mother was the kind of person who would pick up the garbage and then go over to them and go, "Why did you do this?" and hand it to them. And then, like, no joke, yesterday I'm walking my sweet little dog and I'm picking up her stool with leaves because I don't want to use garbage, use plastic. And there's a guy and he's eating a Nutri-Grain bar and he just drops the garbage on the ground in Santa Monica, where like so much care is taken to try to go eco-friendly. And there I am picking up his garbage and going over to him and going, "Why did you do this?" So Bear Burger, I don't want to misconstrue anything. I did not start Bear Burger. I work for five guys who started Bear Burger, and it was their mission, being in New York actually, where we are also very close to the ocean, to make certain that the practices that they were following were of the mind that it's about caring for the environment, both from an animal raising and harvesting perspective to the materials that we utilize to bring those delicious meals into your homes. And because there I am yelling at people about dropping their cigarette packages and butts on the ground, I was like, "I'll work for you, yeah, please." And then getting out here and getting to know all of you amazing businesses in Santa Monica and in California, you've just sort of push the boundaries in these fantastic directions. And so I have the wonderful benefit of being the West Coast Director of Operations and now taking what we're learning here back there. And so like one tiny ripple, it feels like a small ripple for people who come into our restaurant because there's only one of us over here so far. But what you don't know is that I'm going back to them and going, "Yo, we got to look at these straws. Yo, we got to look at how we're handling these items." And so it's a beautiful thing to be on the forefront of that. So it's awesome.
Amazing. So I look out in the audience and see a lot of folks who are working on these things even more so than Heal the Bay. We've got Surfrider, who has their Ocean Friendly Restaurants program, and the Bay Foundation with their Clean Bay Restaurants program. I think both of your restaurants have some of those certifications. Can you talk a little bit for the folks who don't know what those entail, what it means to have a certification, what the process is like, and what you have to do as business owners to achieve those and sustain those recognitions?
Absolutely. I'll start.
Please, yeah.
So there's a green business program that the city of Santa Monica runs that is it's sort of a full-fledged like head-on course of how you can best your greening practices, which luckily Bear Burger had already done, so it was very simple for us to just kind of hop in. But items like LED light bulbs and things that you wouldn't even necessarily think to have LEDs in. Like a lot of like the swinging patio lights, for example, are oftentimes not an LED bulb. But those are simple things and retrofits that you can do to help make the business utilize less electricity and to use a better form of bulb in your restaurant. Takeout materials. The ocean-friendly programs are actually, what I love about them is that they are pushing towards the removal of single-use plastics in a way that I think the city and Sustainable Works are going to start directing towards as well, as everybody sort of starts coming together and having these conversations. Clean materials with cleaning products and the most sustainable means of that, how to utilize less water in all of our fixtures, from sinks to toilets to the dish machines that you have in your restaurant. And there's a lot of really beautiful things that the city does too, where there are grants that you can get to change out your ice machine. And oftentimes you're a business and you're trying to make ends meet and you're trying to pay people and you're trying to make sure that the cups came in, and you're so like micro that, and then the city comes in and Heal the Bay comes in and Surfrider comes in and they help you go like this. And now how can I affect greater change from out here? So there was a beautiful walkthrough process with every person that we've been certified through so far, and it's really heartwarming to see so much passion coming out of the volunteers and the people that are coming in and trying to help you make a better change. And so, yeah, it's top to bottom, and it's very cool.
Awesome, thank you.
Cool. So we started with the Green Business Program in Santa Monica, and like you said, it's pretty rigorous. It's really, really intensive. It was easy for us at a time because we were changing over hands. After 35 years, my mother-in-law had given us the business, and we were able to do a lot of that stuff. So we were changing ice machines, and we were changing bulbs and ballasts and things like that that would make sense for us to do. And part of our DNA as Santa Monicans, it was just part of what you do. So the Seat of Santa Monica thing was really rigorous. Talking with Sophia, I know she's out there, we got into the straw discussion. And so we were looking over the Surfrider list and we're going over everything. Got it. Okay, straws. Oh, we haven't talked about straws yet. And so Santa Monica doesn't have straws on their list. And so in talking with Sophia, we're looking at this and we're going, okay, we're almost ready for straws. And I think it was the beginning of last summer. And summertime at the pier is not a time to change anything, right? I mean, we often have to think like that because it's so impacted, and there's maybe 60 or 70 people on staff in a day and everyone's running around. And so trying to get people to understand the importance of sustainability in something so small as a straw, but having a 5-minute or 10-minute discussion with somebody and an employee who doesn't quite understand the reason behind it or our passion behind it was challenging for us, so we had to wait. And then in the fall, we got the straws and we've put them in, and now we're going through this. All right, well, we had all these old straws from before when. What do we do with them? And even so much as last night, my wife is showing me pictures of like, hey, you can build a chair with straws, or you can do this with straws. Like, let's get rid of them completely. And so now we serve paper straws, and we're going through more so the education. And I think my wife texted you last night or the night before, and we'll get you back in and we'll go through our Surfrider certification and other certifications. But it is a process for us, and like you said, the restaurant is so micro, and you do have to make sure that you're ordering stuff and the stuff comes in, because without our customers, we can't affect any change because we wouldn't be there. And so it is a delicate balance of trying to get things in at the right time. But we've certainly made the change, and we're committed to making the change. And we do it down at Pappy's here in San Pedro, and no one asked us to do it. We're just doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Awesome. And it's funny, as I'm hearing you talk, I'm reflecting, Heal the Bay ran a strawless summer campaign last year where we tried to get restaurants to forego plastic straws for the summer. So as you're saying, summer's the time not to change anything. It reminds me that we all need to do a better job connecting, and I feel that sometimes for those of us who are working in the advocacy arena, hearing from our members saying, you gotta get legislators to do this, that, and the other thing, we're so focused on that sometimes we don't do a good enough job of bringing the businesses along with us. So I'm curious to hear from you, being both more progressive businesses, and we hear from the other side that nothing's possible. How can we do a better job bringing in the whole spectrum of business to those policy conversations?
I've got a great answer if you don't mind me taking this one. This is my favorite one. So on the pier, one of the things that we realized through the Green Business Program is that AB 1826 bill that says we have to recycle organics. We're not doing it. And when I say we, I don't mean we as our business. I mean we as the Santa Monica Pier is not doing it. And we did some calculations. It is tons and tons of organics that we could effectively be recycling. So we've spent the last 2 years trying to get the city to have an organics pickup on the Santa Monica Pier. So the infrastructure wasn't developed so that even if we were recycling the organics, we actually couldn't get it in a truck and then get it to a facility that would allow us to have a throughput for this single product that is 100% what we should be doing, right? And so a lot of times, the bill gets passed, it's a great idea, it's the right thing, ideologically, we're all on the same page, but just getting the public works folks in Santa Monica to designate us a special pickup for this thing has taken 2 years. And thank God it is happening now, just before summertime, which was our sort of cutoff line. We've begun the process. We actually began the process years ago, separating the trash. So we'd have this type of trash bag for this product and this type of trash bag for this product. And so now we've got it. We've now got the bin in our trash area, and there's a lock on the bin, and the lock is just for us so that no one can contaminate anything, because I've learned so much about what can actually go in this thing. So we're sort of the canary in the coal mine, if you will, in getting the legislative process to tie all the way into our business. But it does take, people, right? Like individual advocates to change our habits in store to match to some of those legislative processes. And a lot of times, like, that happened in Sacramento. So, like, what do those guys know about trash on the Santa Monica Pier? And so connecting those dots and, enforcing without being mean, right? And growing us up so that we want to do it, is part of I think one of the wonderful things about Santa Monica. It's just that we learned it so young, we just don't know anything else. But then there's like all of our friends from New York that we bring over, and they're like excited about the process, and you get used to it, and so your rhythm then in the business just includes sustainability. And so as you're evaluating cups, you just don't look at the styrofoam cups, because who would use a styrofoam cup when a paper alternative is just as good?
Yeah. One of the things that I think, and it's going to sound silly me saying this, but assist in helping to make it easier. When I walk into my restaurant in the morning, I have Ashley, who is showing up 20 minutes late, and so I'm having to set the restaurant up by myself, and then I have a food vendor who doesn't drop off the produce, and so I'm running to the farmer's market trying to find the lettuce that they were supposed to pick up from the farmer's market but didn't pick up from the farmer's market. And there's always there's so much going on. And like one thing that the Green Business program does is they came in and they were like, listen, this is how we can help you fix your water output. And then she literally came in with a wrench. And she asked for my wrench, so I was helping to participate, and then we changed out the water things, and it was suddenly done, and the problem was solved, and I would have, they had gotten those fits donated to them, so they were giving them to us, but I would have happily paid for that. But just to have that extra hand in assisting in doing so, and I had said to you earlier, I was texting a vendor because the vendor sent me a single-use plastic that I do not want. And the vendor's solution is to send me the paper product and not do a pickup of the plastic. So now I have this plastic sitting in my restaurant, and I'm thinking, how do I melt this into a giant bear? Like, what can I do with all of this plastic now that it's here? Because I'm stuck with it. I'm stuck with this product that I didn't want. And it was interesting hearing that conversation around sort of shedding light on brands that aren't on target. But one thing that's hard is I was trying to then find a paper cup, and I sent it to 4 different distributors, and they didn't have what I needed. And so in order for me to get it, there's a 4-week lead time on the ordering. And I'm a restaurant that uses cups every day. How do I even begin to project something like that? And I think from a smaller micro perspective of looking at the restaurants, helping educate us on how we can best do our practice, and then maybe even going to that next level. And I've suggested this to Surfrider, and I've suggested this to Heal the Bay as well, is go towards the distributors. Because you've got distributors in LA that do not, their goal is to make their client happy. The client is requesting things, but until there's enough buying power to make it work, they don't stock an item, no matter how valuable that item could be. Does that make sense? I went through and did a whole list with Emily Swallow, one of the amazing people that helps Surfrider, the Surfrider Foundation, and I was like, I can use my power, but now that you have all these restaurants underneath you, let's start talking, start collecting their eco-friendly lists, find the most eco-friendly straw, and now, so Bear Burger, our cups are cheaper in New York than they are here, because I've got 18 restaurants buying them. And I said to the organization, I said to Surfrider, listen, like, what if you are the buying power for eco-friendly restaurants? What if you start talking to distributors, and through becoming a Surfrider-friendly restaurant or a Heal the Bay restaurant, you then suddenly are now lumped into 50 other businesses that are buying these straws. You're gonna drop that price 20%. And they listened, and now Aardvark Straws drops their price for Surfrider businesses. And now we have an outlet to get those straws. But we could even use our greater power now to start talking to companies like UNFI and like Cisco and Costco, and like really get in and go, like, yo, we've got all this care and this community of people that want to make this happen. Let's rock and roll. Like, let's do it together. And then all of a sudden there's a big shelf for the best straw on the planet, and everybody has access to it, so the price is lower.
But that is it, right? Like, it's having that single person to help organize and orchestrate that is not part of our business model, right? Like, I'm a pretty small shop. Singly, you're a pretty small shop.
Like, I can say, like, I have no buying power over here. I am one restaurant spending just like everybody else is.
Well, and us on the pier, like, how we were able to get Public Works to get our infrastructure developed was through the Office of Sustainability, right? And like, they took it as a personal challenge. And the fact that legislation was there was secondary, but like, you have this personal advocate who has, I mean, in their respect, buying power, right? They can go and set a budget in the city that designates another route for this big trash truck. And so we need support, and we almost need like a sustainability person, right? Who's constantly advocating at Cisco or US Foods or whatever the place. I know Santa Monica Seafood has that ingrained in their process, or like Monterey Bay Aquarium has that ingrained in their process. And so it's really helpful when that person is on the other side and we can speak the same language. But you know, we're often busy dealing with Ashley 20 minutes late.
Yeah.
Right? And so
oh my gosh, Ashley. I'm gonna send her a video of this.
Just like now.
Why are you always late, Ashley?
No, I think it's a really good point, and I'm glad you brought up Santa Monica Seafood. We had invited them to be part of this because they are in that purveyor level where they're actually
totally.
distilling and being that mid-level provider of sustainable alternatives. I'm curious from your part, because you know, you're progressive, Santa Monica's progressive. We're working on policies like foam food container bans in City of LA, County of LA, where we're hearing from small business as well saying it's not possible, the alternatives are too expensive, and it seems like that's not really the case on the ground. Is there a forum, whether it be like the California Restaurants Association or some other place, where your stories could be shared peer-to-peer with folks who may be scared because they're worried about the economic bottom line, where it may not really be a concern? And have you tried that, or do you have suggestions for the public to try to engage a little bit more on a broader level with restaurants?
I think, so one of the great things about the Strawless Summer campaign is that it is a money-saving item. 6 years ago, I was sitting there at Bear Burger, and we're counting pennies, trying to figure out how to tighten our margins and make everything make sense. And I'm looking at the takeout bag, and I hate takeout bags. I don't like them. And we had like one of those eco-plastic things because 6 years ago it was what everyone was telling us was the right thing to do, and now that I reflect on it, it makes me crazy. I want to like go back to myself and be like, they're lying. Don't follow that. And I said, like, you being an example by expressing and communicating yourselves as from a consumer level helps us have the conversation. So when you're with a friend at dinner who has the straw, the conversation's always hard, and everybody's seen that video of that poor turtle getting the plastic pulled out of its nose. It's the worst thing in the world, but as a restaurant, I'm about to serve you food, and I can't gross you out to start it, so I don't offer it, and I offer it, and when somebody asks for it, there's this awkward moment, like you're asking for the straw, and I go, well, we're a green business, and we don't offer straws to people because we don't want to hurt the environment. And then they're like, what? And then I hand them a straw, and I'm like, you just hurt the environment, good for you. But I've done it with paper, and so I found a way to help with that. But it really comes down to communication and education. I have paperwork from Heel to Bay and from Surfrider in my caddies now, that like people are sitting there, they've just sat down, you look for something to read because sometimes the person you're with isn't as entertaining as they should be. And so you start reading, and then all of a sudden there it is. I've actually, as a business owner, started partnering with nonprofits that follow my like-mindedness and what I want to do. And so I have a menu, and when you order off of that menu, it's like $1 of every item that sells goes to that organization. And then we just start really forcing the conversation to the guests around what it is that we're doing, because we're so oftentimes mindless about what we do. We're not actually thinking about it, like that cup that's sitting on that table, and how did that table get here, and all these hard-working people that are here making it happen too, and just like come together and then communicate. Don't just swipe past that turtle video that you saw on Facebook, or if you see something for Aardvark straws or a great thing, share it. Don't just like it. I hate that like button. Don't just like it, share it. Cultivate the conversation and help us by being willing to step up, and don't be mean about it, but have a nice discussion about why it's helpful, because it does save you money. What I did to affect the change in the 18 restaurants at the manager meeting is I had a bag and I filled it with the pennies that they would save, and I was like, here's one, you just saved $2.50, right? Off that ketchup packet and the mustard and the person and the labor that it took to stick it in that bag. Now, multiply that times the 700 orders that you do a day, times every single day of the year, and this is where you find the money for those paper straws. You know, because it really is there. And again, if we come together as a community, we can affect the change of the price of that at the distributor level. And then when that distributor hands out a book that says these are the products we have, it'll be cheaper. We have to. Having an item on a table, I need that cup guy to go to Cisco and be like, yo, you need us. And we as an organization of restaurants that care, and businesses and facilities that care, can help affect that change too, by getting together, and you guys help us do that. So,
well, hopefully you have everybody's commitment from this room to continue to make their voice heard. I want to be conscious of time because I have a lot of questions, but I don't want to hog all of the questions. I imagine some of you out there in the audience have questions as well. So are there any questions for Mark or Greg? Yeah. I think we're going to run a mic around.
I'm a do not litter guy. So how, even if the paper straw could end up on the street. So where are your, without being pedantic and yelling at all the people, do not litter, but I mean, how are you looking at that for your customers and to encourage them to not litter? And are there barrels outside your restaurants? Are there ashtrays out there for the people that are smoking?
Yeah.
That kind of.
Please go ahead.
I'll give you one example. Is that we took out trash cans from our restaurant, right? I don't let anyone throw anything away. I throw it away, right? So we just eliminated the possibility that anyone would take anything and throw it, right? So that's one way, is structurally. The other thing I do is I literally go around and pick up stuff, right? And I don't yell at anybody. I'm not that brave, but on the pier itself, I'll often go out the front door and I'll walk up and down and around the restaurant and around our building and up and down, and I'll just pick stuff up. And hopefully people will see that and take notice.
You have one of your barrels. I don't get this. You don't have barrels.
We don't have trash cans in the restaurant. No, we don't have trash cans inside the restaurant. In part because of when we got into separating trash, I didn't want the customer to separate the trash. I wanted to be able to put paper here, food product here, and whatever we have that's there, silverware, whatnot. And so eliminating the option is one opportunity. Another thing that we did on the pier early on in our advocacy was change trash cans, just the round trash cans that are open, to the big belly trash cans with the solar panel and the this and that. And actually that structural change where there's no seagulls flying in and ripping trash out and things have to go in a hole was really, really helpful. It was us just advocating and being super annoying to the city, but then it was also the Office of Sustainability really finding the money. And now I think we've got 20-ish on the pier. Yeah, on the pier we're working toward, might be 15, don't quote me on it. But it's still a lot, and it's a lot more than 0, right, which is what we had 2 years ago.
Hey, I'm the cup guy. I was just going to say, just to your point, there's so much misinformation. I just wanted to hear you talk a little bit more about that from back then to now and where your findings are, because I could bore you to death with why that cup on the thing there is great and all, but and cost effective, and you've got your reasons for buying what you buy, and you made the case about maybe paying a little more to be green and what have you. Consumers obviously have their thoughts about what they consider at first glance. You get 2 seconds to make the impression, and whether it costs more or it doesn't, or it's green or it's really not, there's a lot of misinformation. You were kicking yourself from the previous decisions you made. I was just curious how that's evolved up into today and what your thoughts are about continued misinformation from your perspective.
I think that only time can tell, and every single day we can just try to do our very best to be our very best selves. And so following the practice of, because when I was a kid, my elementary school changed over from paper milk containers to plastic bag. Do you remember this? Were you guys in my age bracket? They basically took, they sat us in the auditorium and they were like, the most eco-friendly way to consume milk in school is to have it in a bag. And so there was this bag, and you pushed on it, and you shoved a straw in it, and you sucked the milk out, and they showed all of them squished down, and you can fit 700 of these bags inside of this one paper container. And now today, paper is back, but paper has to be, it has to not have all of the chemicals that allow paper to hold material or fluid and not get soggy. So for me, it's just, again, reading and trying to stay as well educated as possible, and then making the change. I don't care about the pennies. I should, but I don't. I want a wooden utensil in there because I want it to biodegrade. I want to fix this for them. But that's why I said earlier, to help us proactively make it easier for us. I make it easy for a guest because there's not a thing that they can throw away that is not going to biodegrade, because I spent the money on the wooden forks and the knives. Now, what I have to do is contact that wooden fork and knife company and say, why do you wrap everything in plastic? Why? You know what I mean? And for me, that's why I keep going, because I'm the crazy person that goes up to somebody and goes, why'd you drop this on the ground? But how else do we do it? And why do they wrap it in plastic?
That's a good question. I just wanted to add to that as we're going to the next question. I think it's a consciousness, and both of you brought that up, but as a nonprofit, we're trying to encourage people to rethink how they're doing things and just spend the moment to think about whether they need something. And the plastic bag ban, which so many people in this room fought so hard, and hopefully everybody voted to keep it, to do, I think is a great gateway into how are you moving things? What are you drinking from? And if you just spend that moment to think, we say rethink the drink, because your straw, your cup, your coffee mug, all of it falls into that drink-related item is just a way to hopefully spread consciousness. So encourage your friends and colleagues to think. I think we have time for one. Oh.
I just wanted to say, consciously moving towards thinking of pennies, and that bag example of the pennies, and how it is a tangible example. You also touched on the consortium, right? Concept. My background before the restaurant was finance, and so I've worked a fair amount on bringing a lot of orders together to drive price down. And I know for a fact that if we could collectivize and put all of those orders into a single order and reduce our cost per item, there are tons of opportunities for that with cups, with straws, with to-go, with bags, with all of these things that we do. But it takes someone outside of us to bring us two together to say, hey, there's two of you here, let's double your order and let's drive price down. So I don't want to get too far away from the nuts and bolts and kind of our consciousness and idea and what makes us feel good, but there are real, like taking the infrastructure out of trash. Sweet, just you don't have an option to throw it away, I'll throw it away for you. Or you don't have if you want to be part of this program, you want to save money for guys like us, have us all into a pot and have us make single purchases with one entity.
Yeah. Staying positive, like stay positive too in what you're doing, like when you're communicating it. Well, like, so if a guest says, oh, this paper straw, it melted, or why aren't you giving me a straw? It's like, we'll oftentimes say, thank you very much for helping us keep our oceans safe and clean by not utilizing it, or by using this paper straw versus using plastic straws. And then you just kind of let that sit. It doesn't have to be a berating conversation. You just keep it positive, because there's a lot of positives to going eco-friendly that all of us know that some people just don't necessarily think about, and helping to communicate the lovey-dovey feels around not necessarily that tortoise, which is really that's the worst video on the planet.
All right, well, I think I'm getting the red light over here. So one more question to wrap us up.
Thank you. I just want to thank both of you for all the incredible work you do as restaurants. I realize how difficult it can be at times, and we work with a lot of restaurants, and we approach a lot of different restaurants. I wish everyone we approached had a similar mindset as you. So I would ask, when you are dealing with all the businesses of being a restaurant business and Ashley's late and you have to get your orders on time, and I've been told a lot of times we have 10 to 15 people approach us every week to sell us stuff or try to help us with this or that. What can we do to set ourselves apart from that to help you? Because you do have so many people approaching you to try to help you or to sell you something.
I would say structurally, right? If you want like the step 1, 2, 3, go to Cisco, go to US Food, ask for their buyers' information, get quantities, right, that people are purchasing. So you know that, between us, we purchase X amount of straws. You take our two accounts, we're both in Santa Monica, we're less than a mile or two away from each other, and I would get away from the sales pitch, because we don't want to talk to another person if we don't have to, because we're really, really busy, and Ashley is still late, and we still got to set something up for her. But like, if you could get to the source where we already are making orders, and you get to them and you say, hey, I've got 10 people in this program, and with that, I can bring your paper straw price down to the plastic straw price. No skin off your back, the product is still the same, it doesn't disintegrate in the water, and you are going to essentially save money, right, or save time or energy, or you can market it, or whatever the pitch is, from you to Cisco, from Cisco to us, will save us time, and it'll be a direct line. I mean, try and cut out kind of the noise, right, and help us be more eco by dealing with kind of the next tier up, if that's helpful. And I can give you her phone number if you want.
Yeah, I'll happily let you talk to Victoria from BT. I completely agree with that. Also, too, there's a lot of, but one of the best and most beautiful things about living out here is the number of people that care. But I've never in my life in Pittsburgh had to have the conversation of which ocean-friendly nonprofit I like. You know what I mean? It's an interesting thing to have so much care, but have it be divided in the ways that it's divided. And one of the things that I said when I first got here, and every person that I've tried to talk to, like, I've always tried to gear them towards each other, so that like there's this humongous conglomeration of beautiful humans making all the beautiful things happen. Because separate voices, it does become noise.
And Ashley's still late.
And Ashley's still late.
It's like someone's got to set it up.
But if you can unify that voice, and now like we see, I've seen certain organizations working together with each other and things that I just love that it's happening now, and helping to unify that voice and say, hey, and again, communicate positively. These are the ways that I can help you, not only help keep our oceans safe, but help make your restaurant even more awesome. Because it is possible. It is possible. Yeah, I think it's a lazy answer to say that it's too expensive, because there's a way we can fix this. I know we can as a group. And he just said how. Just listen to that and talk to those people.
And thank you for doing it, right? Like,
thank you.
We wouldn't even be here if it weren't for your original efforts, right? We wouldn't even know that the product exists. But now we know, right, in Santa Monica that this product exists. Now San Pedro knows because I'm here. And so now I'm starting to educate my customers here. And so I think if we can progress the movement in a broader sense, we have to get to the next level, because those guys, the people who sell paper and plastic, they buy a lot more than us as individuals.
So much more. I wish you could see the Cisco warehouse. It's insane. It's so big. So it really is.
The opportunity to affect change really is at the next level up. I mean, we'll advocate for you. We'll be your biggest fans. But to really move the needle is to get to that next tier.
Well, I don't want to stand between us and lunch. We've been talking about food. I thank everyone for their thoughtful questions and you for your thoughtful responses. I feel like coming back to the idea of connection, seeing the kids connect with the ocean and wanting to connect people, you've given us a lot to think about for those of us who professionally work on this issue of where to target our resources. For those of you who just love the ocean and want to make a change, I hope that you think about connecting to your favorite restaurants to have these conversations, the people you're dining with to show example, and collectively, hopefully, we'll start to really make a dent in plastic pollution, sustainable seafood, and all the other ways to be more ocean friendly. So thank you very much.
Thank you.